Hey, Jason and Grace Hodge here from jasonandgracehodge.com. If you are looking at this on our Facebook or YouTube, or if you clicked on to the link from Twitter or any of the other social media links that we have out there, you can pop on over to askjah.com, askjah.com, com/couples WT. And that'll take you directly to our blog page. Or the blog post that this live video is residing on. And that way you'll be able to interact, comment on the blog, and do all the other things that we're going to be doing on the blog, as we build this out and make it a lot of fun. So today we're talking about how do couples work together in business. And we came up with, what is it, 16 or so? 16 of the principles and keys that we use in order to make sure that we're able to work together, that we enjoy the process, and that it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
makes it fun.
Yeah, makes it fun. So if you're a couple, or you are a couple who is wanting to work together, and you want to know, okay, how do we do this without killing each other? Because we're hearing that a lot of families, that they have a lot of challenges with this, and mainly because you've got two people who are coming from different perspectives, and I think a lot of times ego gets in the way, where it's like, okay, my way is right, your way is wrong, and vice versa. And we found that dynamic doesn't really exist inside of our relationship. So we've seen how it works in our marriage, and we said, well, this actually should be able to work in our business as well. Honey, do you have anything to say before we jump into this?
No, you said it all. Hi, everybody. My name is Grace Hodge, and that's ego.
That was ego right there, wasn't it? Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to break the ice.
Yes, that was good. Good icebreaker. Yeah, we fell right on through that.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into, so now the first thing is that we talked about just the whole process of being open to the process.
Right.
A lot of times when we dive into things, we don't really know what it's supposed to look like. We know what the big picture, what we ultimately want to achieve if we've taken the time. And if you haven't, I encourage you to do that. Take the time to figure out what you ultimately want, for this big picture of yours. And then in that process, you've got to realize that you're not going to have all of the answers right away. So you've got to be open to the process, open to learning, open to just taking in all the information in order to make it work.
Both people have to be open, though.
Yeah.
Because there are instances where only one person is open, the other one is there's many walls built up, and so both parties have to be open and just willing to learn.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so I'm going to run down through the whole list, and then we'll come back through and tackle each one, give our little diatribe on those things. And then if you have some comments or questions, some whatever, feedback, great, post it in our blog. We would love to interact with you there. And we'll kind of interact on this particular topic over time, because it's an important one. And we're finding that, especially in the economy right now, folks are trying to figure out ways in which they can spend more time together. There are some who are trying to figure out ways where they can spend less time together, which, that's a whole other post.
Stay focused.
Yeah, we'll stay focused. So, so number one, openness to the process. Number two, clear communication. Number three, establishing your big picture. Number four, schedule design. Okay, schedule design, that's very important. Number five, being on or getting on the same page. Number six, playing to each other's strengths. Number seven, establishing your benchmarks. Number eight, flexibility. Number nine, pulling the trigger often to move the process forward before you think you're ready. Okay, even before you think you're ready. Number 10, systematizing and scaling what works. Number 11, agreeing to flow with one another, get the ego out the door, and put on your listening ears to hear each other out. Number 12, love and respect for each other. Number 13, operate with an overarching desire to create success, to benefit beyond yourselves. Okay, that's going to be one that we're going to really dive into that, because that's extremely important. Just for our world and life in general. Okay, number 14, accountability to others. Number 15, suspend judgment and blame. And number 16, laughter and humor, which is what you saw us open up this hangout with. A lot of humor in our family. We need it, really, and we deserve it. Exactly. Okay, so we already kind of covered the number one, so we don't really need to dive back into that. Okay, clear communication. All right, what does that look like for you, hon?
Being able to talk about things, even those subjects that are like, okay, I don't know why he's the way he's gonna take it. I don't know how she's gonna take it, but really just being open and being honest and really think of the best of your partner at all times. Don't always just come into the conversation like, oh boy, you know, what is going to come down today? But just really be willing, because by talking, you find that many things are really misconceptions, or like you've been in your own little world, like, oh my goodness, maybe he's thinking this, maybe he's thinking that. No, just put it on the table and then just talk about it. Yeah. You find that when we talk about things, it's like, oh, I feel so much better. And many times it's like, it's only like, oh my gosh, was I really off?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I think it gets down to filters. Each one of us, we come to the table with our own filters. The way that life has impacted us has given us a certain perspective on how other people are thinking, right? And it has actually no basis in reality. The stuff that's going on inside of your head is not going on inside of their head, because they have a different reality, you know? They have a different set of experiences that have molded them into the person that they are. So a lot of times we can easily slip into this, and you kind of put your own stuff down and hear the conversation for what it is, not what you think it is based on your own reality. But it's so clear communication here.
And also what helps
too, and that's important. You know, we're foodies, you know that's important here. Exactly.
But that helps. It has helped tremendously, you know, for us to make sure that we're hearing each other correctly. And
yeah. You know, I think also when you take the time limit off of the conversation, sometimes we can get so driven. And I know for me, I can get really driven on things. I get so laser focused that it's like, okay. And then that's the internal mechanism going off, because I'm looking at 1,000 things that needs to be done. And it's like, okay, but you know what though, time, you find that you end up doing 1,000 more things than you actually absolutely have to do to get the job done effectively.
Right.
Communication is things that we really should be putting on the table as far as what we ultimately want to see and achieve in life. Some things I realized, you know what, is somebody else's model for my life. I don't want this in my life. And so I have to remove that from my table, you know. Your turn.
Really, I would say the key foundations of, you know, being able to work together and get to me having on my own picture and him having his own picture, you know, the energy is split.
Yeah.
But when you have one big picture and you say, okay, we're going to start from A up to Z. No matter what comes our way, we've already determined that our goal is to be to Z. So if H comes in the middle, we have to put H back where it belongs, and then we
get back in the alphabet. Get back in the alphabet.
We stay focused, you know, and we continue on the path. I'm not saying it as to what it is that we said we will accomplish, and it helps us to hold each other accountable. When I see him going off, I'm like, big picture. He's like, you're right.
That's almost a daily conversation.
Yes, and it's necessary because you have to revisit it. Distractions come in.
Easy thing to get caught up in the details. And really, when it gets down to it, you're not equipped to handle each and every aspect of the details. Can you do it? Yes, you absolutely can. Should you be doing it? No, you should not be. It's kind of like understanding how to build a house. Well, you may know how to build every aspect of that house. Is it going to be efficient and effective for you to take up the hammer and the nails and all of that to put the house together yourself? Or is it going to be more efficient and effective for you to use your time and your energy and your resources by putting the right people in place in order to get that house built while you get on to income generating activities? What is going to be used to pay for that house?
Right.
So if you understand the process necessary in order to build the house, that's great. It's key. Because then, you know, okay, for one, you don't get ripped off. You know, you understand, hey, wait a minute, you can't cut corners here because I know what this is going to do. You got to build the foundation right here. So you understand those components. You're able to effectively navigate that process and man it in a way where, you know, things are being put together properly. But you yourself aren't the one who is inside of those details. You know, each one of those details takes time, it takes energy, it takes resources, mental resources and everything like that. So you got to be able to delegate it properly, you know. So understanding your big picture is key to that, because then you know where everything goes. You can speak out your big picture a lot quicker than you could actually physically put it together.
Absolutely.
Schedule design. Okay, schedule design. That actually comes down to creating your master calendar and the sub calendars that are connected with that master calendar. So how does that look? Okay, good example is that we developed this. What was it? Was it when we were in DC, or was it when we were in Santa Barbara, Ventura, whatever?
When we were in Ventura.
It was a Ventura? Okay. All right. My wife and I, we keep extremely busy schedules. Okay. She's a medical professional. I'm a media planner. And as you probably have known, if you've seen some of the other video posts, I am the king of minutia. I like to get into dissecting stuff and reading a bunch of stuff. I'm being very modest when I say that.
He's being very modest.
Very modest, yes. Because that is my level of the Fifth Amendment on that statement. So yeah, I get into a lot of things. I tend to have a lot of irons in the fire. I am learning, you know, and training myself out of that habit. Okay, it's not a good habit to not multitask. It's just one of those things that I picked up, a bad habit over the years of doing a bunch of stuff at once, you know, and just kind of pile driving through information and work. And it's taxing, you know, it's taxing, and it's easy to get caught up in your work. I know from a, you know, firsthand, it's easy to get caught up in your work, and you look around and you started and there was no sun up, and you end and the sun is down and you were stuck inside of your work. So schedule design is an important thing because it keeps parameters around what you're doing. So when we were in, you said Ventura, right? When we were in Ventura, just being that we have such busy schedules, you know, and we work hours that are atypical from your normal person. We're usually up at nighttime doing our work. For us, it works out, you know, well, for her, she's doing the night shift. It's an easier shift to do because she can really focus in. It's not, you know, a lot of people coming in, so she can really focus in on the patients that she's dealing with, or on the other nurses, the other staffers that she's dealing with, without having to deal with the other dynamics when family is in there, and, you know, on and on and on. For me, when the kids are awake, they take a lot of time. And for all of you who have kids, you know, we've got 3 boys who are, young. They're, you know,
full of energy.
Full of energy, and that's an understatement, okay?
Exploring.
So we have to figure out ways in order to get our work done while they're not engaged.
Right.
And it's the best time for that is when they're asleep, okay? Or when they're doing their homework. Those 2 times are ideal times for us to be able to deal with things that we need to deal with to get our work out the door, whether it be client stuff or any other things. So with the schedule design, we have to figure out, okay, how do we get our food done in a way where we don't have to think about it and we can knock out a meal in 5 to 10 minutes.
Right.
So we started prepping things way ahead of time. So this has been, look, we've been almost 10 years together now. So it's been around that amount of time that we have just, you know, done that. We will have stuff in the freezer ready to go. When we're ready for that, pull it out of the freezer, pop it into the fridge, and then a day or so later, it's like, okay, so that's up on the menu to cook. So then we cook that stuff up, you know, 5, 10 minutes, get the food out, and then on to our other tasks. When we don't stick with our schedule, oh yeah, no bueno. No bueno at all. Yeah.
And that's why the schedule is so important,
Hmm.
because even with us having our schedule that we go by,
Hmm.
you found that things start to sneak in.
Yeah.
Oh, let me do this. Oh, let me finish this.
Hmm.
But it helps us to keep on honing those skills. We're not saying that it's a permanent schedule. We're
Hmm.
constantly revisiting it to see, okay, does this still apply?
Right.
Does it still work? The kids are getting older, so we'll be
Hmm.
going out to activities and sports. So we're constantly looking at it.
Yeah, constantly revising it.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's a quick nutshell of that. We'll dive into those things a lot more, but this is a good outline hangout to talk about these things, just to kind of give you an overview of the type of things that you want to have in place when you are dealing with wanting to create a successful schedule and working together as a couple, in marriage. All right, so next one, number 5, being on or getting on the same page. All right, now I don't know if you would ever try to do things when both parties are coming from different angles. I don't care whether you're married or not. If you have if you have one team and that team isn't pulling in the same direction, you've got problems. You've got challenges. If you are married and inside of your marriage, you're not pulling towards the same common goal, you've got challenges. Because what ends up happening is that you make ineffective your own energies because you're going one way, they're going another way. And before you know it, it's like, okay, one thing may get done, or they both may get done, but not as well as they could be had there been a concerted focus. So our whole thing is making sure that we're on the same page. And that, again, comes back down to communication.
Yeah.
How do you communicate the stuff? And also, how do you revisit things? Because you may find, as you continue to evolve, that things that you once set up just don't work for you anymore. It's like, you know what? I thought that this schedule would work. It doesn't really work. The theory of it was awesome.
Right.
The actual practical application of it sucked,
And yes,
we've been through that. So inside of your business, you got to look at it from the same perspective, and that gets down to, again, being, establishing or being open to the process. The process is that it's ever evolving, it's ever changing. And so when you find something isn't working, you've given it that 21 days to build that habit. And now you're like, that's not a good habit. I don't like it. Let me move on. So then you restructure, or you are tweaking along the way. But at least you are in activity, you're in action, so you can easily, shift your course along the way. So that's a good thing. All right. So that self-explanatory, being on the same page. Okay, playing to each other's strengths. Okay. Seriously, look,
Sounds like
what?
I have a lot to say about that one.
I've got a lot to say about that. No, I mean, and you've got to, and this is where really getting the ego out of the way is so important. Okay. Now, my wife is tremendous at certain things that it's like I don't even have a desire to do. Okay. So for me to get in there and say, oh, I could do all of that, not only would it be stupid, but it would be ineffective. It would kind of play against our overall objective. If our overall objective is to accomplish big picture number A, and I'm trying to get in there and do stuff that I really have no business doing, no bueno again. So you've got to really focus in on each other's strengths. Now, my wife and I, we both took one of those personality tests because we wanted to know, okay, what are our strengths? Funny thing is that we actually match up in all of those categories. She has higher numbers in some of those categories, but our colors and all of the other stuff, they line up to the same things. We've taken a lot of different one of those tests out there, and each one of them is like, oh wow, it's like, okay, pop a wig on me and you've got my wife, except for I'm just not as good looking. So I'm not, honey, I'm not really. So so anyway, in understanding what each other's strengths are, we're both systems people. So if things don't make sense, if we can't systematize them, they're short-lived, because it's like, I gotta do this thing again. So the system keeps us from having to rethink the stuff that it's like, okay, I don't want to really rethink that, which is why we created a system around our food. Right. We don't want to have to rethink our food. We don't want to have to rethink what should we eat today. Just look at the menu, So inside of that, we play to each other's strengths. We know that we work very well in the kitchen together. So usually when we want to get stuff done fast, my wife will grab me and like, hey, let's get in the kitchen and knock this thing out really quick so we can get on to what we need to get on with. So we do that. So when you look at each other's strengths, even if you find that you're not like perfectly matched in that sense, but you have way stronger points in one area, and you have like you may be way analytical, and your spouse may be a little more, well, let's just kind of flow with it. Well, then you play to your analytic side, let your spouse play to the flow side, because they can take those analytics and then just kind of make it all work together. So really understand and understand it from a position that one is not better than the other. They're both strengths for a reason. And so you make up each other's deficits in that way.
Well put.
You like that? Okay, see, that was one of my strengths. Okay, next thing, establishing your benchmarks. How do you know if where you have set out to go, if you're actually getting there? The only way to do that is benchmarks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to put timelines. Okay, we're looking to accomplish this by this time. And it's not written in stone that it cannot change, because, life is life. You may find that you said, okay, I want to accomplish this in 30 days. And on day number 30, you haven't, you're not quite there yet. It doesn't mean that you drop it and just say, okay, well, we didn't accomplish it. Let's just give up. No, you continue to work on it until it's accomplished, until you finish it. Finishing something in our household is really important. And we're really even helping the boys to know that once they start something from the beginning, they have to see it toward the end, because they will learn that that's the best way to succeed, is by taking something from the beginning and taking toward the end. And as you continue to complete more tasks, it gives you what word am I looking for?
A sense of accomplishment, definitely.
Absolutely. And then you continue, you check off things. You're like, okay, that was done. Okay, let's move on to the next. You just keep on building, and it's like a muscle. You keep on, getting stronger and stronger in that area.
And let me tell you, one of our mentors, Gina Gaudio-Graves and Jack Humphrey, they have a different process when it comes to getting tasks and things like that done. And instead of checking them off as if it was an insignificant thing, it's like, okay, good, done with that. Actually, they have us celebrating those things. When they're finished, it's like, okay, where's your gold stars? Where's your nice, like we got these gel markers and things like that, we decorate the things up in order to say, you know what, this was something that was on our list. It was a significant thing on our list. We are celebrating the fact that it is done. And now we can move into the next level of what it is that we're doing. So it's a celebration, which also from a physiological standpoint, it increases the endorphin level, and it, sparks your energy to get the next thing done.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's see. We are now on flexibility. Okay. So we finished the benchmarks, right? So now you look back and you're able to see that those things are knocked out. Okay, good. Okay, flexibility. Got to be flexible. You're not all seeing and all knowing. So when things happen, you've got to be able to flow like water. Look, we have had like numerous plans that have absolutely been obliterated in front of our eyes. We're like looking at it like, okay, what just happened here? Because life happens. You have to make adjustments. We just came through a year of adjustments. Okay, a whole year of it. And we said, you know what? We can do what we can do. We can put our efforts towards what we can put our efforts towards, and everything else, hey, it's gravy. As things move through, great. We're not going to put too much energy into why didn't this happen like this exactly the way that we expected it and wanted it and planned it, because our plans are finite. So we just say, okay, we put the plans out. Now we have to see how this thing is actually going to map out. And if we see that there's a little detour, we make adjustments along with it. We've got to be flexible. We've learned flexibility over the years. Anything else on that one?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Number 9, pulling the trigger often to move the process forward before you think you're ready, even before you think you're ready. Okay. So now what we're doing right now, This is a prime example of it. We are pulling the trigger. We have no script whatsoever on what we're going to talk about other than this little list right here.
Right.
We had to pull the trigger. We said, no, we're not going to wait until it's perfect. We're not going to wait until we have the perfect graphics for this thing. You know, I create graphics and all of that. You know, I used to do that when I was working at the studios years ago. And in my mind, I'm thinking how a production should be, right? All of these things should be in place. However, those are the very things that create procrastination and keep you from getting stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to stop ourselves from doing that, I have more of a challenge with that than my wife does. So whenever she's like, so in order to, so in order to keep that from happening, guess what we did? We pulled the trigger and we pulled it live. This is live right now. You're seeing us talk about this, do the whole thing, flubs and all. Even if you hear a kid screaming in the background or playing or whatever, or they want rock on here, or yeah, exactly. You know, so we are doing this thing live in order to ensure that the content gets out there. We know that it's great information because these little things right here, this list of stuff, it's really good. It has been what has helped our marriage just flourish over the years. It has kept us very close, very tight-knit as a couple. And so we figured, you know what, business and marriage really are very much the same. So if you can implement these things inside of your business, you would have a successful business with your partnership, you know, in business, as you can in marriage if you have these same agreements. All right, so pulling the trigger, don't wait for it to be perfect. It will never get perfect. All right. Number 10, systematize and scaling what works. Okay, so what we're going to do after we're finished with this whole thing, we're going to evaluate. We're going to look over it. We're going to see how it resonated with our community, with our team members, with our downline, all of that stuff. We're going to see, how did this work for them? Was this information that they said, wow, that was really good? Can we reappropriate this information in ways that we can now scale it and move it, you know, into other avenues without having to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again? Yes, we can. We know we can. We've done it before. So we look at those things, systematize it, scale it, and then push it out there even on a grander level. I just did, let me see, our call this morning, just on talking about certain strategies around that. You know, and if you want to get a hold of that call, then go ahead, you know, inside the blog post, comment below and say, yeah, you know, let me know on that. And so we'll give you the link so that you can get signed up and get that information. Okay, so systematizing, scaling what works. And then so after we evaluate it, then we can say, okay, push it out there in a bigger way. Okay, number 11, agreeing to flow with one another. To get the ego out the door and put on your listening ears to hear each other out. All right, that's very important. You cannot hear things when you've got ego stuff in your ears. You can't, you know. I regularly ask my wife, okay, hey, how did that work out? How did I do that? Hey, how did I make you feel when I just said this? I didn't mean it this way, you know. I'm constantly checking the temperature, you know, looking at the barometer. My wife does the same thing, you know, because we want to make sure that there are no misunderstandings. And we also want to make sure that we're hearing each other out, because look, this woman right here has got a lot of wisdom. And because of that, I know that if I want to get a really good answer on things, I have to present her the information that's in my head. I present it to her and then say, okay, so what is your take on this? I may not always like the answer. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't always like the answer. I don't.
But you always get wisdom.
I always get wisdom.
There you go.
I always get wisdom. You know, and so when she's running into, well, I don't want to speak your thing.
No, finish your statement out.
That was my statement.
Finish your statement. You were saying when I'm always going.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, when you run into glitches or areas in your life where it's like, okay, well, you know, what do you think about this? You know, how would you take this, or how would you handle this and all of that? I tend to ask her questions. Well, what do you ultimately want to see happen? You know, and where are you with it? You know, and more so than that, I ask, okay, well, why are you there with that? Right. You know, what about that puts you there? You know, and what is it linked into? What's the root of that? And so we dive into those things, and then we find a lot of times that it has absolutely nothing to do with that incident right there. It has to do with something that was an established thought pattern based on life experiences from the past. So we dive into those things, and by the time we're finished with that conversation, it's like, ooh, okay, I feel a lot better about this whole thing. My mindset is different. Okay, now I can address this thing, but I can address it from a very pure place.
Right.
A lot of times we're motivated by emotions to do certain things. And that's probably one of the worst places, worst areas that you can allow to motivate you to do something. So one thing to have an emotional trigger, but to act upon those emotional triggers without vetting them in other ways, that could be hazardous. So we tend to vet those things to say, okay, because emotions will leave. They will die off after a while. You may be just so in love with a certain thing. Oh, I just love this business and all of that. Okay, that's great. But did you actually sit down to think about what this business entails? What happens when the love aspect of it, goes beyond the emotion and has to now only survive and subsist on your actions?
Right.
If it's emotional, once that emotion's gone, so is your business.
Mm-hmm.
But if that business is anchored in stuff that is real, and you say, okay, yeah, but I've mapped this out. I know what this is about. I know what it means. And I also, thought about some of the pitfalls, some of the obstacles that were going to come up. And I have created a response to those obstacles. I'm responding to my environment, not reacting.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing in relation to your business? Like, why are you starting a business in the first place? Is it something that is based on ultimately what you believe that you're authentically supposed to do? Or is it something that you're doing because you need to answer a need for money, finances right now? Or you need to answer a need for feeling like you're worth something because you were told all your life that you wouldn't amount to anything. So then you said, well, I'm going to get into investment banking. I'll be able to buy and sell all of those people who said that. Well, yeah, you're in there now and you are miserable because it's not your life passion, because you're so caught up in what other people think about you that you are trying to prove something to them with everything that you do, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you. So again, now that's an emotion-based response or reaction to your world, to your experiences that have created a disconnect between who you are and who you are purporting yourself to be in order to prove people wrong. You got to put that down. Who cares? Who cares what people think about you? What do you want to do? What were you designed to do? Got to think about that.
That's good because many people are driven by fear.
Mm-hmm.
Feel, oh, what are my age mates going?
Mm-hmm.
By this time I thought I would have accomplished this, and I said I would do this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really a good question to ask.
And I always wonder, out of all of those people who have been judging you, right? How many of them are paying your bills?
But many times we don't ask those questions.
We don't. We don't. And
until...
on top of that, we don't tend to ask the questions of why does that matter to me?
Many times this is what matters, and it's almost like not almost. It's not taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, got to do that. Bring to flow, get the ego out of the way. Okay, love and respect for each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I just touched on it a little bit, the whole love thing, but contrary to popular belief, love is not an emotion. Love is actually an action. What do you do as an action to express your love? When you're about to say something? No, okay, yeah. So when you say that you love a person, how do you follow that up? How do you prove it? How do you verify that you actually do? That is one of those questions. I hear a lot of people throwing the word love around, and when you look at the activity around what it is that they're doing, what kind of sacrifices are you making in order to express that?
Mm-hmm.
What things are you willing to put aside right now in order to create a better situation later for those who you say that you love? Sometimes it's a matter of you have to do certain things that folks just simply will not understand, and you will be ridiculed because of it. You will be looked at as if, whatever, any kind of, you fill in the negative blank there, okay? And you have to stay solid in your own knowledge that what you are doing is for the good of those who you love. So you've got to determine, hey, what am I willing to do? Yesterday we saw was it yesterday? We saw that very cheesy movie where the person went out on a limb to
Right.
expose. Okay, we saw a very cheesy movie yesterday, right?
You
Horror movie.
always call my movies cheesy.
It wasn't your movie. You didn't make that movie. Don't even claim that movie.
No, I didn't make it.
Yeah, cheesy. But even in the cheesy
It
stuff,
had a message.
it had a message, and she always picks out movies that have
And
some
that's
great
why.
messages. Yes, I know. Even cheesy and all, with the cheesy music and all of that, but the messages, there's always a good message. Yes, I have to give that to her. Even though when she says, this is a segue, I know this is side of a tangent, but I'm gonna go down here for a quick second. But did you just roll your eyes? Quick tangent, yes. Okay, so even though I may not always initially pick the movies that my wife picks, I have to say, if not 100% of the time, I'm looking now, I'm thinking on it. Yeah, I could probably say, yeah, I think it is 100% of the time. 100% of the time, or very close to it.
Be careful.
I need you to be careful. Be careful. I'm gonna fix your dinner later. Be careful. Come on, Cletus. So here it is. The movies that she picks, they always tend to have a really good moral to the story. And so at the end of my internal dialogue and external statements, because I do make statements during the cheesy movies, but at the end of all of that, I have to look at her and say, yeah, well, you did it again. You picked out a really good one. And she's like, mm-hmm. She gives me that look. So there it is. So you've got to love and respect each other. I absolutely respect what you do, honey. You were just the bomb.com. I'm telling you.
I respect you too.
I know. I love you. Okay, so now, next thing, number 13, operate with an overarching desire to create success to benefit beyond yourselves. Okay, now this is key. If you simply are working to do something that is just going to benefit your life, okay, you can do that. A lot of people do. But if you want something that is going to stretch well beyond you, that you're going to have a following, people just pour into, you've got to go bigger. One of our sisters, she was on a ship, Mercy ships, years ago, and she was telling us about this guy that she met. I guess she's friends with him and all that. Well, anyway, he's the guy who started Charity Water, charitywater.org. And he goes around the world putting in watering systems. Well, people got behind his cause. Instead of I think he started out on one of his birthdays. And instead of people giving him gifts for his birthday, he says, no, instead of giving me gifts, I want you to donate towards this cause. That cause grew into a multi-million-dollar endeavor where he goes around the world and people go with him to put in wells in economically depressed areas, villages and things like that don't have safe and healthy water. They drill wells, put water in there, and it has not only boosted the morale of the villages, the communities and all that, but it also has helped them mitigate certain health issues that they get from drinking polluted water, parasite infested water, disease infested water, by getting clear water out of the aquifers that they drill for. So I thought that, wow, that is an awesome story. Not only the story, but the cause itself, the mission. It went way beyond him, way beyond him. So what things do you have that you can move into the arena that go way beyond you? If you're not making a difference in the lives beyond yourself, beyond your own immediate family, you may be missing the boat. I'm not saying that you are. I mean, that may be just your only thing is, hey, I just want to benefit my family and that's it. Okay. But if you want to really make an impact in this world, you got to go deeper than that. And that is also something that's going to move you to, inspire you, not just motivate you, inspire you to continue, because hey, you know what? If I don't do this, people in villages are going to die.
Right. And the more we help others in the process, we're helping ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we are all connected. I don't care what anybody says about that. We are all connected. And you cannot do wrong to your fellow person and feel right about yourself unless you have no soul. And when you don't take the time to pour into others, it's like I see a lot of people when, and unfortunately, we have not always been in the position to give money to people that we see on the streets holding up the signs. But I've heard people just, pass a lot of judgment on those people, like, why don't they get a job and all that? I think it's just crazy. It's ludicrous. Number of reasons. One, if the person is actually scamming people to get money, okay, you should pity that person, because that person obviously does not believe in themselves enough where they feel that they have to scam people for money. Okay, that is an intrapersonal issue that they have. And so you should pity that and pray for that, and feel poorly for that person and want to help their mindset up. If the person is a person who is down on their luck and they have that sign up and they're out there asking for money, panhandling and whatnot, and instead of saying get a job, you don't know what their situation is. Maybe they're not employable. Maybe they have a situation, going on in their mind that does not keep them in a job, whatever it is. Or, well, they should get, help then. Really? Well, they are looking for help, just maybe not in the format that you would respect. So you have to start looking at it from the standpoint of like, okay, whatever their situation is, if I'm able to help them out, if I'm able to, give this person some change out of my pocket, a few dollars or whatever, give them some clothes or put them up in a place to stay, whatever it is, okay, do it. Because it not only, I know for me, there is a deep sense of gratitude that, hey, you know what? I didn't pass by and become one of the statistics that this person looked upon for help, and maybe that was their last chance. Maybe that help kept them alive one more day. You never know what the situation is
until that person opens up to you and
exactly
you never know.
Exactly. That could be the next millionaire, the next billionaire. That could be the next world changer that you help, that gets them over that hump for them to get into their success, into their path of success. That could be the very act that restores their faith in humanity, that makes them not want to serve humanity. You never know what it is. But I'm just saying that, don't judge folks. Instead, whatever you can, whenever you can, help them out. We're all connected. All right, so I'm going to get off my soapbox on that one. That'll be a whole other blog post. Yes, well, I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, so yes, operate with an overarching desire to create success and benefit beyond yourselves. Okay, so that covered that. And now 14, accountability to others. All right, so now we have an accountability with each other, but we also have a community of like-minded friends, business associates, and all that we're accountable to. So when we say it, we say, okay, we said it, which is why we don't say a whole lot. We don't say a whole lot because we're like, what, if we say this, we're gonna have to do this. So we have said some things and now we're making good on those statements, okay? Right now, we are in business together, moving our business forward, and this is a new avenue for us to work together in this capacity. We've worked together in a marriage before. Now we're working together in the marriage of business. So we're like, okay, so now we have to now move through the process. How is this going to work? The beautiful thing is that we know that we love each other and we know that we can talk about anything to each other. So that helps the whole process. And then we are surrounded by a community of folks in our different communities that they consistently help us with information, with resources, platforms, different things like that, in order to help us move our business forward. If you want to know how to do that, then if you're on our blog right now, which you should, because I already gave you that information to get to our blog, askja.com/couples-WT, go ahead and click on one of the banners that you see, to the left, to the right, up or down, and that will give you the information and a way to get involved with what is that we've got going on. And also it'll help with our being able to support you in your business endeavors. Okay, so accountability to others is very important. Because another thing is that when you don't feel like doing certain things, you need that person, or let me say it this way, you deserve to have in your life folks who will not let you kind of shrink back from your own stated responsibilities. You say that you want this big picture to take place. Well, you can't get to that big picture the easy way. It's just not possible, okay? You've got to make sacrifices. You've got to make moves. It's just as simple as that. So you got to get out of your head that it's going to be the easy road. You press a button and hey, boom, out pops $1 million. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. What happens is that you have to grow yourself into the $1 million. Yep. You have to grow yourself into the $1 billion. And how do you do that? Well, the Bible says, he who is faithful in little is faithful in much. You have to learn to be faithful in little. What is little? Well, for one, the little for us is doing these videos. We did a video last night, spent over an hour working on that video because the signal kept on dropping. By the time we were finished, the video, and I'll put a link to that, it's hilarious. The video itself was just a blank slate, right? And every now and then you will see the icon pop up where our picture should be and where our voices and stuff should be. It just is what happened. So instead of saying, well, it's just over, it's not working, he said, no, we have to just keep on working at it. So today we're back at it again. This is like what video number 3 or 4 for us? Number three. Okay, so this video number 3. 2 was a flop, but it was a success because we did not let it stop us, okay? Because we're accountable to each other and we're accountable to our community. We're like, well, no matter what, come what may, we will be able to say, hey, we did do it. We put it out there. We put out the thing with the links, the whole deal. We marketed it. It just didn't come through, which then is a testament to our dedication to get the things done, no matter what, okay? Next, you may see some stick figures drawing on the screen. Doesn't matter, just get it done. Okay, so accountability others. Number 15, suspend judgment and blame. Okay, look, you cannot work a business, you cannot work a marriage, you cannot work a relationship if you're going to judge it and cast blame. The bottom line is, if things don't work out, they just don't work out. Instead of pointing the finger, well, it didn't work out because of you. No, that's not the case at all. It didn't work out for whatever reason. Now, the key is, okay, so now let's dissect why it didn't work out. What about it didn't work, and how do we make it work? That's what we do in our marriage. That's what we do and am doing. This is what we are doing inside of our business. Okay, what works for us, our personality types.
And at times you find that there are things that you overlooked, things that you did not consider. So as you continue that process, you find out, you fine tune it.
Yes.
Yeah. But you just don't go at each other's throats and say, it's your fault.
Exactly.
It is both your fault.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And fortunately, because of the list that we do go by, do you know we've never had an argument?
No.
Never had an argument. And it's not like we're saying, one more day, no argument. It's not the case. The thing is that we came into the relationship with agreements. Hey, this is how we're going to work this relationship. No drama, whatever we have to talk about, let's talk about it. And whatever we need to table, let's table it until we can talk about it. And that's just how it goes. So that's how we worked our marriage. It's worked very successfully. We have an awesome marriage, have awesome kids. And so that's how we're working our business, Okay, and the last thing,
laughter
and humor. And so as you see, we started out with that. You got to keep things light. Look, as you get to know us, you're going to learn a lot more stories about us, what we have experienced in life, how we have gotten through them. And laughter has always been an integral part of that, even in the most dire of situations.
Absolutely.
Our laughter it's critical.
It's
kept
good.
Us strong.
It keeps the bond strong, and it gives you the marrow, and it creates those endorphins that we need daily.
Yep, it does. It does.
Yeah.
All right, so that takes us to the end of our list of 16 things. I hope that this is something, and I know if you were listening and paying attention, if you say it wasn't something that helped you out, you were lying, my friend. Okay, but I don't think that you're going to say that.
No.
Okay, so what I want you to do now is to go ahead, click on the link, comment below, let us know, hey, if there's anything that we missed on that list. Let us know. Put it in comments.
We're open to feedback.
We're open, yeah, because we want to learn. We want to grow. We want to continue to grow. If you yourself want to be in business together, you're a couple. If you're not a couple and you want to be in business and you want to know how to create a lucrative business, or you want to know how to put a system in place in order to grow your pre-existing business, if you want to know how to market your business, we have links on our page, askja.com/couplewt. Or you can go straight to this link, askja.com/TOH. Okay, that's T as in Tom, O as in Oscar, H as in Harry. Askja.com/TOH. It'll take you to one of our presentation videos. And inside of that presentation video, it's going to talk about some of the dynamics that you absolutely need to have when you are growing your business, because it's about having certain systems in place, having your profit maximizer in place. You know, there are going to be folks that you see from all walks of life. You know, many of them are our friends, literally. You know, you can look on our Facebook and see that, they're our friends. And they are doing great things inside of this system because they're applying it to grow their businesses, their respective businesses. So anyway, if that's something that is of interest to you, go ahead, click on those links. If it's not, great, share this video with somebody who is looking for an opportunity in order to grow their business and to grow their lives. All right, with that said, we're out. JasonandGrace.com. Catch you later.
See you soon.